Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee, and we have a very special guest today. First time on the Herd Fit Podcast, current Bison beast. We are just a few days away from the Open, and we are with Tracey Magee, a former Games athlete, by the way.
Masters.
So what? I'm just going to say that. Is that the first ever?
Yeah,
the first ever Games athlete. So back to you, Tracey.
Oh,
awesome.
Not at all.
Tracey, thank you for joining us. Opening remarks on being on a podcast, other than the fact that it's a little warm in here.
It is a little warm. I'm excited, but I'm also pretty nervous.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to kind of talk about myself.
Yes.
Mostly, I'm very happy to talk all about CrossFit and whatever. But the other, it's, I enjoy sharing the memories, but talking about myself, my personal kind of achievement stuff is kind of difficult.
Yep, I understand that.
Yeah, so I'll leave it to you guys.
My response to that will always be, just as we get into it, just keep in mind, like, I think a lot of you have a really cool, unique story that has just a lot of like ambition and accomplishment, hard work, a lot of things people don't know about, right? That kind of led you to your success. It's going to help others. I think that's one thing that you could always just think about when you are sharing your story. And it does feel like you are talking about your accomplishments because you have a lot of them as a coach, as a gym owner, as an athlete. It's going to help someone else kind of reflect on your words, your experiences, and I think it can help project them to the future. So I just think like and I get it, trust me, like there's always some awkwardness when you're talking about your own stories, but if you can kind of keep your mind on that, I think it'll help out a lot because you have a lot to share. Tracey, let's go back into what Sam will call your CrossFit star story. How long have you been CrossFitting for? When did you start? Why did you start? And what kept you in it?
Okay. So I originally got exposed to CrossFit probably around 2011, I would say. So my background in fitness goes back beyond that. And we moved over to Thailand, and that's when my youngest was born. And the reason it's relevant is when we came back, I had 3 children at that stage. So I decided I was not going to go back into corporate.
Okay.
It was just too challenging with the daycare and trying to manage everything with it.
When you say
3
back,
children.
back to the United States or?
Yeah,
Okay.
back to the United States.
Okay.
So, because I'd been in fitness to a lesser degree in terms of like as a coach, but I'd had dabbled into it a little bit. So for the flexibility perspective of, being able to have my children there and kind of dictate my own schedule, I decided to go that direction rather than going to corporate. And I mean, I've always been extremely passionate about fitness, both from myself, just in challenging myself and pushing myself and seeing where, your body can go. And I just also loved the environment, the camaraderie, just being around other people, the social element of it. But that was mostly because that's really, I guess, all existed outside of sports. And with gym was conventional gyms. So I did spin instruction, group exercise, personal training, and that sort of thing. When I came back, I got big into running when I went to Thailand, believe it or not. I know it seems strange, very hot over there, but I didn't have access to a gym. So that's what I did. So when I came back, I continued to do that more and more. And the gym would be all the other aspects of fitness that you would kind of expose yourself to. So definitely a gym rat, but I was still always non-conventional because I was the circuit type, moving around and, but still there wasn't a whole lot of functional fitness available.
Right.
But for me personally, I really enjoyed, as I said, coaching, spin. I was a cyclist as well, like at that point. And I just kind of got further and further into it, like as time went on. And then we moved again. We've moved around a bunch of times. And that's when I found myself, as I said, getting further into running. I became a competitive distance runner, marathoner, and I had done an event, which was the Men's Health Urban Athlon, which was probably the original, maybe adventure racing type of race. And I did really, really well in it. I had an enormous, I guess, aerobic capacity, so I could keep going. But then all the other stuff, because I'd always been involved in the gym and staying strong, none of that kind of fazed me. And I thought, oh, I really like this mix of things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I did that a couple of times. And again, I placed, and it was just very kind of surprising, but it got me more and more interested. So when we moved back, so we were in Pittsburgh for a while we were only there for just a few years. My husband, Mike, had taken a job out there. And then we moved back and I started up again. Like I worked for the New York Sports Club and again, a very conventional gym. And what I found, and probably a lot of trainers now who are CrossFit trainers probably don't necessarily like. I mean, I'm not knocking that industry at all, or that aspect of the industry.
Yep.
Is that I like to engage with people, and there isn't really like as much of that, and people have no real direction, so they're kind of wandering around. So I would be that trainer or that coach that would always kind of interact and try to give people some guidance. Whether it was, whether they were your clients or not. It was just like, well, that's my job. But, most of the time people have headphones on and they don't necessarily want to listen. So
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Someone would come up to you and tell you how to bench. Like, get away from me, man.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
in the zone.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing kind of thing. But there was, at that time, I guess that was around 2010 maybe.
Okay.
So CrossFit already, I guess, started on the West Coast and it started getting some momentum. But I'd heard about it, but I didn't know what it was. And there was a trainer there that were talking about it, but all of the talk about was very negative.
Right.
I remember that distinctly. It was almost like hating on them. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I got really curious and I'm like, let me have a look. So I went and I started watching some videos and I remember seeing one of the workouts I saw, it was like running and deadlifts. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it was about like the intensity. And I always liked that from training as a competitive runner. I always did a lot of track intervals and that. So I was used to that like exposure to like intensity, but then I would come to the gym and separate the rest of the stuff.
Right.
So I'm like, they're mixing this stuff together. This is really interesting. So I just got more and more curious. I felt like the more that people were knocking it, the more curious I got about it.
Right.
So I decided in May 2011 then, that I went to do my L1. I said, well, let me just learn about it because I'd got lots of other certifications like personal training, spin, Group X.
Were you doing CrossFit at this time before you got your L1?
No, I was starting to do it like myself. I went on the main site and I would just do workouts, but there was people around me that weren't really that interested and they were like, what are you doing? And also even at that time, you wouldn't often see women over by the weight section in a gym, nor would you see them doing pull-ups. And I would always find myself a little spot that I could sneak and hide and do them like myself. But again, it was not welcome.
Do you remember the first workout you tried out for CrossFit?
So the first workout I probably tried out at home. And it was, don't ask me why I tried to do this, but it was all body weight stuff. I think it was 100 push-ups, 100 air squats, 100 pull-ups because I had this pull-up bar mounted in my house, and it was just that to me was at that stage was like this was an easy workout.
Right.
I mean, I'm small, so body weight was easy for me. So I really enjoyed that, and I think it was Chris Spieler that I saw because I'd look at these videos of these workouts, and then I would see these different athletes whom I didn't know who they were at the time. And interestingly enough, when I went to my L1, Chris Spieler was there.
Oh wow, small world.
Yes,
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was
destiny.
Yes. But I was still very much into competitive marathoning, and then I got more into adventure racing at that point.
So you were essentially just doing a lot of mixed modal work you didn't probably back then wouldn't call it mixed modal. You call it more like circuit training.
Yeah.
But the way in which you were training at a conventional Globo gym was really closer to what we do at the gym right now.
Yeah.
Just a lot of like mixture of, high intensity, high output, mixture of movements, and never followed a specific routine. So you really were doing CrossFit before you really knew you were doing CrossFit.
Right, exactly. Yeah, pretty much, I would say.
And building your base really high without even knowing it.
Without knowing it, yeah, exactly.
So when you said at that gym, CrossFit was talked down upon, and then maybe what you were doing in the gym wasn't fully accepted, even though you were still allowed to do it. What was there any talk of like, Tracey, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not safe. That kind of stuff.
Well, so after I did my L1, I came back and Fran was probably one of the second workouts I did. And I did not do it the way because we had to do it. I don't know if when you guys took your L1, if that was the required workout, but that's the one they tested us on. And they said because it was a quintessential CrossFit workout, and I remember I didn't even know what a kip was at that point.
Right.
I mean, I went to my L1 to learn, to understand
what CrossFit was.
Yeah, what CrossFit was. And there were you know, a lot of people there who did not have much of a fitness background, but they had CrossFit experience.
Got it.
So I had a big fitness background, a lot of knowledge, but I didn't have CrossFit specific. So I'm doing strict pull-ups and everybody's looking at me like,
Right.
what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know how to kip one. Like, well, you're not getting the stimulus. And I'm like, explain, like,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it was. So it probably took me maybe 8 minutes or
Right.
something to finish this work, which I think they allowed us to really to explain or let people understand
Right.
what the intent was behind it and how I missed the mark. So I became that example of in terms of capacity. And I did understand that at the time. I know people who are not either, they don't kind of espouse the you know, the CrossFit belief or methodology. They would say, oh, you know, kipping pull-ups are not really pull-ups, but it's like, well, strict is strength
Right.
and the kipping is for capacity. And I learned that right in my L1 a lot more about that. So that when I came back to the gym, I'm like, well, there is one place that you could do a pull-up. And there was another girl there who was starting to do CrossFit too. And so I'm like, well, she was doing kipping pull-up. I'm like, and everybody was just like rolling the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? This is crazy.
And you were like, what's your Fran time?
Right? Yes. So I went up to her and I said, you don't mind me asking you, are you doing like CrossFit? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, I would really like to learn how to do a kipping pull-up. I said, can you show me? So she was giving me a little bit of instruction, but then I asked her where she went to, and she said she went to a CrossFit gym. And again, I was a trainer there, and I was
Yeah.
coaching other athletes,
Right.
and
You were a big deal there.
right. So again, it was kind of somewhat not supported. So I was very mindful of that, and I
Yes.
wanted it. You know, I'm kind of a rule follower, so I don't want to upset. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the fitness industry. It's always growing. It's all
Evolving.
advancing. It's
Yeah.
evolving. Exactly. So I went to that CrossFit gym, which happened to be really far away from me at that point.
Are you in Jersey or in Pittsburgh?
I'm in
at this
Jersey,
time?
New
Okay.
Jersey at this
Do
point.
you remember
Yeah,
what gym it
I
was?
do, and you probably know CrossFit 201.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
CrossFit
Yeah.
201. So it was Wilson DeDeus.
Yep. I remember we have a lot of people here that know Wilson
Yeah,
very well.
when he was a trainer. So it was my first like official CrossFit workout in a CrossFit gym.
That's awesome.
And when I went there, and he had told me just to come at whatever time it was. So there wasn't a class going. The classes had already gone, and I was doing my trial or, you know, test out. And the workout was written on the board, and I'm like, oh, I love this stuff. Like there was a lot of us running, and then I'm coming in and I'm doing dips and all sorts of things. And as I'm going along, I finished the work and he goes, you're done. So he kept giving me more stuff to do. And I'm like, okay. So I just kept going. And then he said afterwards, he says, have you done this stuff before? And he was like there was dumbbell snatches, which I didn't really know how to do. So he was teaching me. And I said, no. I said, I haven't done it specifically before, but I have a, you know, good like fitness background. He said, I think you'd be really good at it. So we just got talking about whether I'd be able to, you know, go there as a member, but it was just because of the challenge with my children.
Yeah.
It was just hard at the time.
Wasn't close.
Yeah. So, but I brought like that. So I did go a few times to their gym, and it was to learn myself so that I could help teach my
Right.
clients
Right.
more so. But I had the terrible misfortune of when I went they had there were rope climbers outside, and it was
Yep.
the first time I've ever did a rope climb. And lucky me, so you'll probably learn about me over time that I'm a bit of, I don't know, I kind of fumble and fall and do just
Klutz.
weird klutz. Yes, thank you. And so I actually forgot to take my ring off. So that's, you know, it's a reminder of people, always take your rings off when you're doing any kind of rig work or anything like that.
Right.
And my ring caught on the rope on the way down. They thought I fell and hurt myself, but I kind of let go. And I actually broke my finger, like
Oh, man.
really badly. I snapped it over and I ended up needing surgery. But it was, the moral of that story is to take your ring off, number one. But secondly is I had aspirations at that point of doing the open, having no idea how I was going to do. And
2011, the first ever one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the first ever.
Yep.
For me, I guess it was the first one that they did the head-to-head, was it? Or they made the announcement?
The first
Yeah.
announcements was 2013.
Oh, okay. Where they did the head-to-head, right?
Yeah, that was Scott Panchik versus Dan Bailey. Yeah.
Yeah. The one with the year, I think the 2011 might have been. Oh yeah, was that the 7 burpees?
That was 2012. That was my first.
2012,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yeah.
that was the one that you wanted to do.
Yes.
Okay, and you didn't get to
because I broke my finger and I was in a
Okay.
cast for like 6 weeks. It was
Got
it was pretty bad. But Well, Wilson had said to me, I remember, because I called him on the way back when I realized like how serious it was. So, and he just said, well, just keep that fire in you.
Yep.
Just keep that fire in you.
Mhm.
But I kind of jumped ahead a little bit because it's kind of intertwined my experience as an athlete and also my experience as a coach.
Right.
It's kind of hard to separate.
Yeah. Oh,
the
definitely.
two.
I think they
you know.
should be
Mm.
one and the same. I've always said that if you get better as an athlete, it should make you a better coach. If you become a better coach, it should make you a better athlete. I think and I think you did it right. You basically were learning CrossFit as you were trying to coach it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common background for a lot of coaches that started back when you started, like that 2010 to 2013 era. And I do think that's partially why the quality in CrossFit coaching has gotten so much better just over time, 10, 12 years, because now it's a lot of people, for the most part, you've done CrossFit for at least a few years before you get thrown into the mix.
Yes.
Back then, the supply of CrossFit coaches was so low.
That's right.
The supply of people that even knew what CrossFit was so low compared to now that you basically, I had CrossFit for I think 9 months before I started interning.
Mhm.
And I was coaching a class 4 months after that. People that
Right.
had been CrossFitting for years, and that was a common thing back then. And you could make the argument that wasn't the best way to coach, but that's what all that was out there
That's
at
right.
that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So fast forward this for me. How did you
Mhm.
get from there to competing in the games? Like, I want to hear that in like 4 sentences.
4 sentences. So from there I went to a smaller sports and conditioning place initially because the stuff was more available. Still not adequate in terms of getting you really exposed to everything CrossFit. So I found another CrossFit gym, went with a friend of mine while I continued to train my own athletes, like outside of that, because I also did endurance, like I was endurance coaching people at running, etc. And when I went there, I saw the whole structure, how, the classes were run and what the expectation would be of you as an athlete when you're around like other
And that's what you
other
wanted
people.
to do.
Yeah, I found that the more I did it, the better. And I adapted very quickly
So
to
how
a
did
lot
you
of the
transition from
movements.
your personal training into becoming a CrossFit coach and doing more formal CrossFit?
Well, so I was coaching, as I said, in this smaller CrossFit. It wasn't a CrossFit facility, sorry, a sports and conditioning
Right.
facility. And I was doing all of my own programming, coaching, training in my own small group of athletes. And we wanted to do CrossFit, but there was nothing close by. And there was a big community to draw from because I lived in Kinnelon
Mhm.
at the time, still do.
Mhm.
So, but going, we did find the other, it was my friend, my good friend Evelyn. So she had been, she was a client of mine, and she decided to go over to this other CrossFit gym, and we went together there, but it just wasn't conducive. Didn't lend itself for all of the other members sort of to come with you. I think things are changing now. People will travel a little bit more, but at that time, everybody wanted something down the road, around the corner, and that's as much as I was going to do. So I kind of split it up initially where I was going there. But then after being there a short amount of time, they asked if I would coach there because I
Okay.
had a very big background in coaching.
Which gym was
It
this?
was CrossFit Persephone. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
they were only there a year and a half, and that was before I bought over their location.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
was
how you
in
became a gym owner.
Yeah, well, I had already I started my gym out in another location because that's what I did once from 2011, probably 2012, 2013. I was looking for a place for that. I was thinking in a real small way to begin with, to be
right.
honest, for the group of people that I knew that wanted to do it. But it was so difficult to find a location.
What was the name of your gym?
My own gym was
Yeah.
CrossFit Clan Performance Center.
Okay.
So then we would truncate it to CrossFit Clan, and that's clan meaning family.
Yes.
So for me, that was a big aspect of it. It was really important for me to have that as part of the name, just because community. It's not just, and it's because it's all inclusive.
Right.
So that's why, and I'm Irish, so.
Really?
So
I thought that was a South Jersey accent that you had.
Yeah, so clan is Gaelic for, for family.
Very much,
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I started coaching there, and then, after splitting myself up for so long, some of the people that I knew did actually come over there also. I just transitioned over there as a coach because I was just finding it too hard with the children, with all their activities and everything. And so the first year, I guess, that I did the open was 2013, and I was the only one that did it. And I'm like, because I thought like, well, everybody's going to do this. Isn't
Right.
this like what people
Yeah.
do in CrossFit?
You had this fire for it, the
Yes.
competitive side of it a little bit.
Yes,
and not
I
everyone
did.
had that juice yet.
Yes.
And you crushed it.
Well, okay, believe it or not, because if anybody knows me, well, at least Dave knows for sure this aspect of me, is that wall balls, I can implode when it comes to wall balls. When I first came into CrossFit, they didn't phase me from a capacity perspective. That was, I could do more. So if I no reps like 10 times, didn't matter, I'd do 10 more. So that was my best performing workout. But all of the others was just, it was just also new to me. A lot of the barbell stuff, and I was a small athlete. It took me a while before I was able to build up my strength enough, because being smaller, I just had to get stronger, So there was, and although I couldn't move it as efficiently. So I did okay in 2013.
And then
in 2014,
Yes.
after a year of training CrossFit coaching and, much more, I qualified for, I made the top 200, first of all.
So that's back when, so the qualification was you do the open. If you finish top 200 in the world within your age group,
Yes.
you move on to the next stage. Back then it was called the Age Online Qualifier.
AGOQ.
That's correct, yes.
And then from there, they take the top X amount. It changed a few times.
10 or 20.
Was it back then? Was it 20?
It was 20.
So the top 20 in the world from that second stage got immediate invite to the CrossFit
That is
Games.
a brutal cutoff to make the top 200.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely brutal.
It's brutal.
I've made it
by the skin of your teeth a couple
once.
times. Yeah.
Once in the old criteria.
Okay. Yeah.
Then but like I barely made it 1 year, and it was like maybe honestly for CrossFit the biggest accomplishment I've ever done is make that top 200.
Totally get it completely. Yeah. And actually I was incorrect with my timeline, of course. I was expecting that, but it was 2014 was that was the year that I missed it by one spot.
I see.
I think I made it into the top. At the top, I said it was top 200. Is it for the qualifier?
Yeah.
And then it was top 20, and I was 21st.
Oh,
so that's the other thing. So it's one amazing achievement to make top 200, but to get into the top 100 is another magnitude more of achievement. Yeah. And then the top about 15 or 20 is like
it's almost
the elite of the elite. It's like that is like you can see the qualifying times for the top 15, the top 100, top 200, and those are like huge jumps you have to make.
Yes,
different level.
Yeah.
So that was what year that you made it in under the top 20?
That was in 2014.
Wow.
So 2014, yeah. So it was almost like it's I guess a solid year of CrossFit and developing strength and skills. And I guess I was fortunate in a way as being a smaller athlete that coming in, I could do a lot of the high level gymnastics like right away. So like pull-ups, then chest to bar, and then ring muscle ups.
So then what were your things that challenged you more?
I would say the heavier barbells.
Heavy lifts.
Heavier lifts. And also, as I said, I was able to do pull-ups, but my kipping mechanics were just not quite there yet. So that was hard for me.
Did you realize how big of an achievement it is to actually make the games?
The interesting thing is that I guess I did, but I didn't know if other people really did, because I remember like my husband because Mike got into CrossFit a little bit like later than me.
Yeah.
And when I missed it, he couldn't understand why I was so upset. I'm like,
and that's missing it by one is
that's brutal.
I think I'd rather miss it by 10.
Yes,
right.
And you know what? It was that the night before, like, and you try not to do this, like the leaderboarding, kind of whatever. Do I repeat a workout and whatever?
Yeah.
And
it's part of it.
it was so, and that's what it was, because I would be up to 19, and then you go sleep, and you wake up, then you were at 20, and then I was down to 21. And so it was back and forward. So that was very, very
brutal, because it's a whole nother year if you don't make it. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So what age group category were you in?
That was 45 to 49.
And then you went, and where was the games held?
It was in Carson, California.
So what was that like?
So exciting. It was unbelievable. So I had a misfortune. Again, it's the story of my life. 5 weeks before going out. So I qualified, and I had some like stellar performances again, because at that stage I was able to move the barbell, and I had those advanced gymnastics.
What was your best AGOQ workout? Do you remember?
I was probably the one where I finished with muscle ups. It was the one where they had the calorie row, wall ball. I think it was that one. And so the separator was, first of all, if you got to the muscle ups and if you could get them. So every extra muscle up was a huge jump up there. And I think there was a handstand push-up workout as well, which had cleans and handstand push-ups. So, and the cleans for me at that point were very heavy, but I had developed my strength enough.
How heavy were they at that point?
They were 125 for me. They were 185 for the men, I think, and 125.
For you, And
For
how much do you
me-
weigh?
Well, I'm heavier now than I was then.
Okay.
So I'm 115, I would say now, but I think I was only about 105, maybe 110. Yeah.
Wow.
It took me a while to build that mass to get that extra like strength on me. So yeah, moving that barbell was a challenge. But once they mixed it in, I really like the classic CrossFit. I think Dave and I talk about this
All the time, yeah.
Those couplets or those triplets, or when you combine those, challenging moves, barbell, gymnastics, capacity.
Yeah.
So what happened 5 weeks before the games?
I was out for a run with my son. It was a training, and training was just going so well. I mean, I was just so excited that my fitness was probably at its best. I had just kind of got my capacity on bar muscle-ups, repping them out like just a week before. It was just straight, like week before I got the qualification. And then I was running a bit, coming down the hill. I rolled my ankle. I wouldn't even say rolled my ankle. I twisted my knee coming down, and I didn't really think too much about it. My daughter had her graduation that evening, and then all of a sudden I couldn't walk, and I tore my meniscus. So, and it was really bad. My knee completely locked up, so I couldn't move it at all. So I went to one of the top doctors. I think he's for the Jets. I should know this. I know football Jets are Giants. I'm sorry.
A professional doctor that works on a professional football team.
Yeah, and so he immediately said the only way that you'd be able to do what you need to do is if you had surgery. He said 5 weeks is a very, very short space of time to rehab and get back and be ready. He said, but we can put an aggressive timeline on there if you want to do that to get you where you can kind of move. So I gave him, all the types of stuff that I would need to be doing and what have you. So it was very aggressive. I had the surgery. We waited just the bare minimum for recovery in order for me to start doing things.
That's insane.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me to get back was actually running. So because any kind of like impact, I was getting my range of motion. I actually came back faster then because that was my first really serious injury that impacted me as an athlete.
Right.
So with that aggressive, I was ready to go out there, but my knee was still so vulnerable that every event that I did, I was
hesitant.
I was hesitant,
Yeah.
And I would come back and they were icing me with my knee out to here or whatever. But it was either the first workout or the second work. So we had a heavy thruster.
Yeah.
And that was hard too. But again, that was a really good lift for me. And for my size, I could make it, but I did not hit what I would normally, I think I did 135 or something like that. Whereas I would have been able to go over that. So those sort of things held me back, but I didn't care. I was just so excited to be there.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience.
125 thruster.
Right. Was it 125?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So what were some of the other highlights that you remember from your games experience out there?
Well, the highlight of apart from like just, experience from how I performed in certain events was when I talked about the ice on my knee coming out. So I'm in the athlete village and I'm there as usual, sitting down with the ice, trying to, get it ready for the next day. And they had these beautiful porta potties, right? We think of porta potties, you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
No, these were luxury. I mean, really, really luxury. And so my friend went over and she goes, oh my God, do you know who's in there? And I'm like, who? Matt Fraser. And I'm like, oh my God. So she went over and
in the porta
potty. And I'm like, okay. So she said, I'm going to go talk to him and I'm going to have him come, let's get his autograph and whatever. And I'm like, no, please don't do that. And I couldn't get up like fast or whatever. So she's over there talking to him and she said, my friend is actually competing here. And he said, and she was gesturing over to me and he goes, no, you stay there. I'll come to you. He was the nicest person ever. And we sat and we talked for a while and we got pictures with him. We got the autographs and he was a really, really good person.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I completely understand. And I think we've even talked about this, Dave, when you're in this kind of focused blinkered mode, when you're preparing for like events and whatever, a lot of athletes, they just don't want to talk to people or they won't. And I understand that and I respect that. Yep. But some of them were just not like very social or just not, and even outside of that. But him and some like other athletes, I remember it was Kristen Clever. She's one of the old school.
Yeah, old school.
Her too, same thing. Really lovely. Sam Briggs. So all meeting these people in person was just amazing.
Yeah. You really feel like you're in the club at that point, right?
And because we all warmed up.
Competing.
Yes, we all warmed up in the same place. We had different times.
Right.
But they would overlap sometimes. And they would be doing their warm-ups and they might have maybe the 150 sandbag, whatever,
Right.
over the shoulder. I'm getting the like 100, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just,
It's still though,
just
like that's CrossFit
astounding.
too, like, you know, the
Mhm.
stimulus training, you're all feeling the same way. And I think that's like, that's probably a time where I made it. You know, like
Yeah.
you're in the room with them, all warming up together, all wearing your clothes, your names on it and everything. Like that have to have been like just a surreal experience.
It really was.
Yeah.
It's just, and you just, to see them in person as well is
Yeah.
just amazing. Oh, there was two other. So Rich Froning again was another one, just walking by in the street.
Yeah.
And again, I'm always nervous to, you know, to say it. You don't want to interrupt them. You know what
Right.
I mean? They've got stuff on their mind.
Right.
No bother, just stopped, you know, chatting for a little bit. But then Dmitry Klokov was
Oh,
there
wow.
that year. Yes. So he had, you know, he had a stand there and he was doing some demos. And again, I just like, you know, why not, Tracey? It's the one opportunity
Yeah.
that you have.
You'll never get that shot
You'll
again.
never get that shot again.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I got to meet with him. And,
Okay.
you know, I mean, I absolutely love weightlifting. I
Right,
mean, it's
you
one
do.
of my favorite
Yeah.
aspects of CrossFit. Although I'm short, my body is not really designed for weightlifting. And I've
In some
learned
ways it
that
is.
yeah, in some ways, I don't have the, you know, like I've got the longer arm, but
Right.
shorter torso, and you
Yeah.
kind of want to have the opposite. So, but you
Yeah.
make the best of what you have. So I just love the technical aspect of it, and just that, especially like for women, it's so empowering
It is,
to
yeah.
be able to lift
Mhm.
like heavier weights, and
Yeah.
that was one of the probably big reasons why I got into CrossFit as
Yeah.
well, and why I wanted to coach it, was just kind of imparting that with women in particular. You know, that it's about being strong.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And I've been-
awesome. No, I know. I think you guys, I mean, you're probably one of the, I would say, main catalysts. There's a lot of you, but you are in that tier, that group of people that really, in my opinion, I've said this on the podcast a few times. I think women CrossFitters have changed the landscape of fitness more than any group in any fitness program ever. Like, I think women in CrossFit have made the biggest difference. Whether you're
Wow.
coaching, a games athlete, or just someone that's going to the gym, I think everything that you ladies have done with weight training and kind of fighting certain stereotypes has changed the landscape of the whole fitness industry more than any group.
Wow.
I feel strongly about
that's
that.
great to hear that
Yeah.
from a male
I'll keep it going
coach.
because I think there's
Yeah.
still more to be had with that. Like, I still think there's a lot of like young girls that really look up to you guys
Yeah.
more than you think. I think
That's
that.
wonderful.
So with this games kind of like in the rearview mirror, I would love to just get some feedback on, you know, you went over your start story, opening the gyms, coaching, learning CrossFit your own, performing at a high level. You know, what is it like to be on that level of performance, but also trying to grow a business? And, you know, the conversations I've had with you, it wasn't just about business. It was about really making an impact and changing people's lives
Yeah,
and bringing the
100%.
CrossFit life, you know, to these people that are just walking in the door. What was it like to pursue both at the same time? Like, what were some of the struggles there?
So yeah, as you just said, it's a huge passion of mine, and again, it comes from being in conventional gyms to begin with, and just seeing that the focus was always on appearance and not on performance, and that's what drew me to CrossFit as well. Is that, you know, if you focus on what you can do, not what you look like, your body composition is going to change, your mindset's going to change, and it really is very empowering. So that's been always the mainstay as to why I wanted to bring that to other people. It was also that intimidation factor as well. Like, if so, a lot of people, and we don't mean to, and you can say as much as you want yourself, like as a CrossFit athlete, as a CrossFit coach, as a business owner, is don't be intimidated. It's fine. But when you walk in there, just the environment can be, you know, a little intimidating.
Absolutely.
Even for me, as you know, as experienced as I am, I'm shy by nature. So taking that step into a new gym or a new place is very, very difficult. So I wanted to try to break that barrier down as much as possible, make
Yeah.
it as welcoming as possible, and try to, when somebody walks in, to kind of keep them just for
that.
enough so that they will start to enjoy it, see the benefits, see the changes.
Keep
and
them long
then-
enough that eventually
Yeah.
they start to say, all right, I'm 3 months in, not 3 weeks. I'm 3
Yeah,
months in, like,
true,
and that kind of just
exactly.
takes care of itself.
Yeah.
That makes them want to come
Yeah.
back, not just Tracey.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And that was my driving force, you know, all the time, to kind of to keep that in mind, that that's why I'm doing this. You know, I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want women to feel empowered. I want that shy person or that awkward person that kind of hides in the back to feel like that they belong, and that this is the best hour of their day. But it was really, really hard.
That's
I won't lie.
Yeah, that's a 20.
is-
That alone is
Mhm.
24/7, 365. It's
Yeah.
not just when you're coaching
Mhm.
classes.
Right.
It's actually probably more when you're not coaching the
Yeah.
classes, and then the amount of thought that goes into it.
That's
and,
right.
the amount of times you're not at the gym, you're not training, you're not coaching. You have to think of ways to fit different personalities into the same room and make them all feel like they are important, because they are.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone needs different, forms of care. People are more verbal, some people are more physical, some people are, need time outside of the gym time, some people need it at the gym. So that's doing that, and then also training for that level that you were on was also 24/7, 365. Being a mother, 24/7, 365. Do you have any advice for someone that is trying to balance all of those things, that, maybe it could be a mistake you made, or it could be a good decision that you made? Like what really helped you kind of catapult in all three directions?
So I think balance was really important. I wasn't always really good at it, and I think the part that I would forget sometimes is the self-care. You really do. You have to take that time, be selfish sometimes, and I don't mean that in a harsh way, like, telling people this is my own time, but I found that I always allowed myself to get pulled and distracted.
Right.
And whether it was my training or whether it was the business, I'm kind of too much of a perfectionist, where I could have let certain things go maybe a little bit. I could have delegated maybe a little bit more. And, and a big regret is not truly like asking for the help when I needed it, is like letting people know what was going on, and that I needed like more support.
Right.
And also having courage of my convictions. When I wanted something to be a certain way,
Right.
I would back down a little bit, and I would let others kind of dictate for me sometimes, because I'm like kind of a people pleaser. And you can't really do that. You can't please. You can't keep everybody happy.
No, it's impossible.
Difficult.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
One thing I can relate there that you said that kind of stood out is that, you're a big reason why you got into coaching, and a big reason why you are making a difference in people's lives, is that you are the one that's like kind of, you're trying to be the most strongest, most consistent force in the gym, but you're a human being.
Right.
Like everyone knows, we all have ups and downs. And it's sometimes you'll come into the gym while you're on a down, but you still feel that pressure to be like, no, I need to be the one that's consistent. Let them be the one that are upset about their muscle ups or being sore or something hurts or they can't do the open, right? They need a strong, consistent force in the gym to keep them motivated. And when you don't have, if you just keep throwing yourself into the fire, like, all right, I got to suck it up. Eventually you can't. And it doesn't mean you're not tough. It doesn't mean that like you're a failure. You're a human being, right? We're all humans before anything. Before we're athletes, before we're fathers, before you're a human. And that's something that I'm constantly working on. And I think that you could probably share that, or just shared, that no matter what, you do have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because if you are 80% of yourself trying to portray yourself as 100%,
it's impossible.
People will catch on. And you actually probably will put out a lesser product at some point.
Yeah.
So you have to, again, that balance thing, those are good words. I think that's really important for people to hear.
Yeah. And there was definitely a period, and I think it was, and you hit on it just right there. When I had, in 2018, I had an incident at the gym, and it was in the middle of summer, but I was born with WPW. It was a heart condition and arrhythmia
Wolf
condition.
Parkinson-White syndrome.
That's right. Yes.
I was about to say the same thing.
Doctor Sam, right? So, and it never really interfered with my life, or like as an athlete. But I think there was a lot of factors that kind of came into play that particular day. We had a really, really intense workout, but to flash forward, I blacked out and I collapsed in the gym, and I guess I just had like an incident. There's probably been many occasions where my arrhythmia triggered, but it didn't lead to that. And so I came round, and there happened to be one of the members that were there was a nurse, so could see right away that my pupils were not dilating. And because I kept saying, I'm fine, I'm okay. And they're like, well, actually, no, you're not fine.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having to go to the emergency room, and I ended up having to have heart ablation surgery.
Yeah.
Because they said my blood pressure skyrocketed. There was all sorts of things that were going on, that things just weren't kind of like regulating. And they said, well, you could probably still be okay. But the risk is that if this ever happens in a very dangerous situation where you're driving, or I just happen to be, and typical of CrossFit gyms, there's a bay door, but not like ours at a complete drop off to like 4 feet.
Right.
And I was right by there, and I fell like just inches from there. And if that had been a different incident,
could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I realized for me, again, I mean, it was totally new experience for me recovering from that type of, procedure. And they say that you have to adjust to your new rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I put myself under this pressure to go back. I mean, the great thing about the CrossFit community that particular day is everybody rallied around me that day.
Mm-hmm.
They all made sure they didn't listen to me like, no, I'm fine. They got me there, Mike. They got Mike right away. We went to the hospital. But once on the outside, I felt everything is fine. I'm recovered. But I tried too soon to go back to coaching, to training,
your routine.
Yeah, back to my routine. But it was it was less so like some of the training, because there was lots of stuff that you can do that's not going to necessarily jack your heart rate up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was standing. I forgot, like, when you're a coach and you're doing that much like yourself, Dave, you're on your feet so much, like nonstop. And
it's the worst part.
Yeah. And I did not recover as well as I could have.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the self-care that I'm talking about, is being able to take that step back and, getting a little bit more support and not say, I got this.
Yeah.
Because
I'm tough.
Thinking that people are expecting that of you,
Right.
So,
give yourself some grace on that.
Right.
Now, without getting into too many details, just the last part I really want to get into and just give you some opportunity to reflect on this with us a little bit is, so you're no longer owning a gym. Don't need to go into the details unless you want. And I think still doing a little bit of coaching on the side.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you are now with us. You're a member at our gym. You are, one of the staples of our, mid to late morning classes. Yeah. I've had so many people say like how much they love your energy working out with you. Like that, it's cool. It's cool to hear. And I hope you know that.
You're doing a very high level of fitness, like of achievement.
Yeah. Kicking ass.
Like a lot of people watch you and they are pretty amazed with
I've
how
had so many people
level you've maintained.
So many people have been like, dude, who is she? Oh my gosh, she just started CrossFit last year, just to like scare people. But, what are some of the just, either surface level or deep things that you're dealing with? As do you like coming in and just having to work out and not worry about the leaking toilet or having to cover tomorrow morning's class, but you were planning on working out tomorrow? Like, what are just some of like the subtle differences that do make a big difference for you personally?
Yeah, well, the first thing I can say is that the way I've been embraced by Bison has been amazing. Mm-hmm. And actually, probably got me very emotional.
Yeah, it's okay.
It was just, it came at a really important time for me. And it's been fantastic. And just the people, the environment, everything. And I wasn't even sure. And again, we won't need to go into too much detail.
Yep.
But like back the summer before that, and after I sold my gym, I'd gone through some health issues again and whatever. And I had the injuries that compounded it. So I really didn't think I was going to go back to CrossFit.
Right.
I had seriously considered, I need to do something different. I need to not do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was friends of mine that were coming here. Mm-hmm. There was Britt and Dave, and then there was Jenny, that said for the longest time to come even do a workout. And I kept regretting, why did I never go and do that workout with them, like just on a Saturday or what have you, because now I don't think I want to do CrossFit anymore. So, and it was my family came over. My 2 sisters had been over that summer. We hadn't seen each other for the longest time. COVID, which was like the lowest point, I think, from owning the gym, which kind of almost was the catalyst for selling the gym, was when they came over, they were saying, you need this, Tracey. This is what you do. It doesn't have to be at any great level. But you need to be, fitness, you need to be in that environment. And I'll never forget the first day that I walked out. I came with my sister first of all, and it was Adam. Amazing, like just amazing welcome, such a great guy. And I'm like, wow, I like this. This is really organized. I mean, I love everything was all set the way it's supposed to be. I'm a little bit, OCD about things like that.
That's the gym owner in you.
So it was like, oh, this is great. It's really efficient. It's, but still I wasn't sure because I had my sister there as my, to kind of like do it with me. But then the workout, then I came in by myself, and you were probably coaching Dave, and Jenny was there, and it's just like I felt like I belonged. I'm like, I'm still nervous. I'm still very, I feel a little bit kind of shy and awkward about it. It's a new environment, but the support and camaraderie. I mean, it's not like I didn't have that before. Like when I owned my gym in the early days, I would say, but when things started to go, I would say go south a little bit, and it was like post-COVID where I lost a lot of my staff. People were disenchanted with the fitness industry. It was almost like, it's dying industry. It's never going to come again. And like
it's really
my
tough.
my right hand man, who was always going to be the the successor, so to speak, got totally disenchanted, and that was Axel, totally
That's
disenchanted.
like also had like the CEO change. A lot happened. A lot happened to CrossFit,
and it's completely understandable. I
Absolutely,
completely understood like where they're coming from. So I'm like, well, I can't really do this like on my own, and so that whole kind of really support system kind of fell by the wayside. It was very different. I trained a lot by myself. It was just, and I just wasn't like enjoying it. Then all of those health issues and injuries that happened all last year, it was just like no go. But it was renewed, a renewed appreciation for everything.
Yeah.
It was just, and I feel like it's just, I got to compliment you guys like so much, like your staff, your members. It really is. It's a testament to, and what an amazing job that you guys do here. And whether it's a member or it's staff, member of your staff, you just got equal support.
Yeah.
Everybody just feels like, you're just as important as the next person. And
absolutely.
It's
that's always been the way it's been here, right? We try so hard not to put people on a pedestal. There's certain situations where it naturally happens, but day to day, I don't think we have a problem there. And I think one thing that we've tied together here that is the subliminal reason why I think you're feeling comfortable and rejuvenated is you are an old school CrossFitter. Like you like one of the first things you said on this episode was you just love like the mixed stuff, the CrossFit, like a real CrossFit workout is your favorite kind of workout.
Absolutely.
And we've been talking about this a lot, Sam, myself, and Chris. Like I don't think we do anything overly special here. I think there's a lot of things we can do better, but we are CrossFit. That's what we do. We're not a boot camp that does some CrossFit. We're not a CrossFit that does some boot camp. We are a CrossFit gym. The programming is CrossFit, very CrossFit. And that's who you are, right? And then you throw in the community aspect as well. It's like that's where, you started off as the New York Sports Club trainer wanting to engage with people and help people. That's why it's like a perfect marriage, right? Like that's what this place is. Like you come in here, coaches and members, they want to help you out. Whether it's helping you out with a technique on a lift or just making you feel more comfortable and feel supported, help you get ready for the Open, the quarterfinals, Legends, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you're a competitor.
Yeah.
You killed it at Legends.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was
never say die.
It was a good comeback. Well, a good kind of bringing me back into the fold and feeling of competing.
Yeah.
But it's just Bison is, there's no question about it. It's special. And it is the balance that you have, like, with that support and with the coaching. It's just, it really is like second to none. And it's just, I felt like right at home.
That's
like
great. I'm glad to hear that.
From day one. Yeah.
I want to be jealous. I want to be jealous, even though I'm already jealous. You competed at the games. All right.
What's in 2015? It's a long time ago.
So what? I'm still jealous. What's one thing you don't miss about owning a gym?
One thing, oh my gosh. It was stressful.
Yeah.
It was stressful.
Constant.
Constant. It's 24/7.
Yeah.
It's always on your mind, and just the days are really long. Even if you have breaks in the day, it's just
Still not a real break.
Just not a real break. And it's over the weekend, everything. I was never away from it.
Right.
Some aspect of it, because I did like the back end stuff, because that's kind of like my background, where it was finance and, as an analyst. So, and I like organization. So I always felt, at home doing that.
Yeah.
But it was just too much. It was a lot, So probably that's what I
don't miss.
Don't miss. Yeah.
So to wrap this up then, do you think that being here and not having to deal with that 24/7 stuff, where are you looking to go goal-wise competitively? Are there still competitive goals, or are we thinking more fitness and let's see what happens? Like I'd love for you to just kind of share that, and let people know, where your head's at with competition in terms of your future. Like, do you think your training will be easier to stay on top of now that hey, I'm just an athlete here. I'm not changing that toilet paper over there.
Yes. Well, yeah, definitely. I have more time, just literal time, and also like the mental capacity to, to train like a little bit more so I can be more dedicated, more consistent.
Right.
And doing it at like same times. I mean, when I was on the gym, I was all over the place.
Yeah.
And sometimes I felt great, sometimes I didn't. The other side of it is I am getting older. I do have like a lot of like injuries that I'm managing. So will I truly be able to keep up with the volume to be at the competitive level? I don't really know. I'm just kind of feeling it out. I do now have the opportunity, which I never really kind of had before, which is, the aspect of CrossFit I love too, which is Olympic weightlifting, where I qualified for nationals in March. And that's, again, I'm a small athlete and I'm older. So that's the only time that you actually compete in your weight class.
Right.
So I'm competing in my weight class,
That's
which
huge.
really is
That's huge.
Is huge, like for me. So that's exciting to be able to do that. And I still think of it in terms of like, how's that going to make me better at CrossFit? Because again, I'm a very,
it's in your blood.
It is my blood. It really is.
Yeah.
So I would like to see where I can take it, but I am realistic in terms of the recovery.
Yeah.
When you're an older masters athlete, it's just the reality of it.
Yep.
With all the, you can want it as much as you think that you're, I can take this, I can do this,
Right.
but it does take longer to recover.
Right. There's some biology involved here that you're not going to win against.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and things are changing in my age division too, which is, which is kind of, I guess it's good and bad. And maybe it'll change. Who knows when they bring the open is what kind of movements it would have in there. I like the high level gymnastics.
Yeah.
So whether I'll get to do that in workouts remains to be seen.
Yep.
So we'll see. I'd like to see where it's at, but I don't feel like the pressure,
That's
to like that I have to perform. If I do,
That's great.
It's great. And and if I don't, I'll probably be disappointed. I mean, let's be honest here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I
Again,
hope,
it's in your blood.
It's in
right?
So,
I think every former competitive athlete, anytime you get to something you just couldn't do anymore and you kind of know, you can read the tea leaves like something's over or it might be over. It's a hard thing to deal with emotionally, at least the first year or two.
Yeah.
I got hopes for you this year. Let's see how it goes.
I do too. I think you're going to crush the Open this year. And I can't wait to just be a part of it with you and just watch you, support you.
I so
and
appreciate
we'll be
that.
in your corner on that. We'll be yelling at you to pick up that damn barbell.
Oh my God.
Suck it up, Tracey.
I'm getting it from the opposite end this time.
Let's make the agreement. Yeah, exactly. You are not allowed to get mad at me over the next 3 weeks.
Right, okay.
All right, well, thank you so much, Tracey. It was awesome having you on. Very encouraging words. And I think just having your background story is going to help out a lot of people. And I know it's not the most comfortable thing in the world to talk about on camera. And Sam and I are both really intimidating. But, we're just glad that you came on and we're really happy for your time and good luck this year in your season.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you,
Tracey.
Sam. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
See you guys. See you guys next week.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.